I'm big on fundamentals. Like content marketing is not new. Napoleon did press releases. That was the content marketing strategy which he had to get a country to support his war campaigns, and that was happening hundreds of thousands of years back. And before him, there was somebody else doing that stuff, and there'll be people doing it after us for many years, because we are social beings. We love stories and we love consume content. It could be in the form of newspapers. It could be in the form of like writings, radio, television, podcasts, TikTok. Doesn't matter. It's a different medium. The fundamentals remain the same. I think for me, it's all about the fundamentals. It's not about like, oh, this trend, that trend, let's do growth hacking, let's go get that. I did that for a bit. I must say that was a mistake.
Good morning, everybody. Today we have Raj Goodman, and Raj has done multiple startups, and he has raised funding, and he has a lot of great missions, about bringing women to the workplace and really focusing on that. And he's been in the Revolution magazine for 50 most influential people in digital. And Raj, is a pleasure to have you. Thank you. And how did we get here today? Tell us about Raj and what's your story, sir?
Correct. Thank you for the opportunity. Good to be on.
Yeah.
So a little bit about myself. Where should I start? I'm a father. I'm a husband. I love the idea of growing things. I'm somebody who really enjoys building stuff. I'm actually an engineer by training. I'm an engineer who got into marketing. You won't believe I was studying AI and doing research in AI at university in 2004, and we didn't have enough power to compute our algorithms or our ideas. We were just kind of like believe that they will work. In fact, my mom thought I was studying AI. She thought AI was a study of UFOs. She didn't even know what AI stood for. It was such a unique thing back then, right? And today we all talk about AI. Yeah. Start with research in AI at University of Sussex in the UK, and as it happens, I wasn't built for PhDs. I wasn't built to do a PhD, so I dropped out on the second year, and I started my first business in white label social media software, basically a Facebook white label. I built the first version of that in a month and a half, just on my own, just coded up. I worked incredibly hard, 18 hours per day, and I coded up a version of it. It wasn't perfect, but did the job.
Yeah.
Sold to a lot of government organizations and travel companies. Although we did well, we got a lot of PR. I think I wasn't valuing the power of learning, constant learning. That was one of my big downfalls in the early days. And the second thing I did not value was how important cash flow is for a company. I was so naive about it. But that was the beginning of a big change in mindset. I think since then I have, this is my third company. I've sold one company in the past. I've written a book. I've worked for a company, helped them grow from 7.5 million to 45 million in revenue. And I think a big part of what changed my life is to actually have a mission. I think you alluded to that earlier, Greg, but I think having a mission in life is critical to power us with turbo energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I read a great book by Simon Sinek called Find Your Why, and it was life-changing for me. So, I mean, I've got my missions, and it's so glad to share that. with people, because until you know that, it's just, you're kind of just drifting. At least that was my experience anyway. um so what did your mother think of the to did my microphone just go off?
I believe so. I think I lost your video as well.
Uh-oh, hold on here.
No worries, no worries.
um so change the camera here 1 second.
Of course.
Oh, OBS was coming on, that's why. I don't want OBS on. We'll have to edit this part out.
All good.
Camera, no, I don't know why that's doing that. Hold on here. Strange. That's okay. Well, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, well, we'll just go with this camera. That's fine. It's not the greatest perspective, but that's all right. Okay, yeah. So your mom, when you changed careers from, being, having a job to a startup founder, how did that go?
Well, with Asian parents, I would say anything which is not a doctor, a scientist, an accountant, is not ideal. I would say for most Asian parents. I mean, my parents were confident that I'm going to become a banker because I got an internship and you know got a few opportunities. Uh, but I wasn't built for that stuff. I wasn't built to be an accountant. I wasn't built to be a banker. I was built to do what I do now. So yeah, I did cause a few sort of broken hearts in that sense, but I think it all worked out. I mean, today when they look at it, they're all very pleased and happy that this has worked out the way it has.
Good, 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 good. Well, that's, yeah, I mean, the success part of that is key, right? I mean, I'm sure at first it was a little bit, but that's good. That's good. It's always fun to test those relationships. Well, maybe not at the time, but looking back, right? So what inspired you? I mean, was it just a simply a fact like, this is not for me? Or was there more to it to go to building technology in such a short time frame, I might add? I mean, what was your inspiration to do that?
I think I think like yourself, Greg, as you mentioned earlier, I'm really curious and I like I can't seem to sort of sit still. Like I always want to do something new. Like, we implemented this thing called EOS, where EOS is a framework, stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System, basically allowing the founder to become a visionary. But I just can't stop building stuff. So I'm like, the team. A very I got a fantastic team who does majority of the growth of the company and the operations and the selling. Um, but you put me in the company and I'm just building new stuff for the company and just like constantly building stuff and just that the curiosity to keep trying out new things because I feel like that's what I'm here for, is to build new stuff and give people more opportunities. If I don't do that, then my my own purpose, my own value system doesn't feel at ease, and that's why I guess I do what I do.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So through that process, when did you find your why? I mean, was it reading a book? Was it like a moment of, oh, I'm just not feeling it. and I need to find more. I know that's what it was for me. That's why I'm projecting. What was it for you?
Uh, I mean, it was something much more serious in some ways, but equally like life changing. So, 2016, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was
Mhm.
just 34 years old, and like I think sometimes when life hits you, we just wake up again. And for me, that was the moment of waking up again because I realized that I'm running a digital marketing agency, which is generic marketing agency. Um, there's no sort of, as you said, there's no why attached to it. What's my purpose? What are my value system? I don't know about those things at that time. And I almost thought to myself that if my wife recovers, which she has, and she's now healthy, and now we have a child as well, um, that I will re I'll be reincarnated, or I'll be reborn to
Yeah.
be somebody who has a purpose in life, who is driven by purpose. And the company also then started to like have that vision as a purposeful company, as a company which has bigger mission. Um, and I think she having gone through that, and we both being in it together, maybe realized that there are people like us who face challenges every day, all day. I mean, I remember the time, so I did some thinking and soul searching. I realized that having born and brought up in Middle East and India, um, there was there's so many different cases of women around who didn't get the opportunity. Like for example, in my high school in Kuwait, where I was born, there were 10 in 30 women in technology studies, so in tech. And then in engineering in the UK, there were 2 women to what 98 men. And I'm like, this is not fair. I mean, they kind of go to the next level. There are pretty much no women in engineering at all. And I'm like, this is not fair. There's something to be said about opportunities for women. I have a sister, I have a mother, a wife, I have a 2-year-old daughter. I don't want her to be brought up into a unfair society where there's a imbalance between men and women. So instead of doing charity work and then running your own company, I said, okay, the company is going to have a bigger mission, a bigger purpose, which is to empower women in technology and marketing. This is going to be a goal. Today, we are 80 to 90% women in the company. And this is like our mission is to bring more women in management, more women in technology and marketing, and really help them go into the next stage because women are the future.
Yeah.
Full
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, absolutely they are. You can hear me, yeah?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Well, because the microphone was doing weird things. No, I have a daughter as well. She's, 1 1/4. And yeah, the women are the future. They're so much better at business than I could ever be, because they have that empathy, and they and that's where everything is going. Thank God, that business is going more towards emotional intelligence than anything else. So yeah, I'm glad you saw that. That's awesome. So what was the process to so you discovered that, and then how did you just kind of did you have a mission statement, let's say, for example, before that, and then how did you develop that, with that new vision in mind?
It didn't happen overnight. It took about a year and a half, 2 years to kind of reach that stage because firstly, it's about embracing that change. And then it's about talking to a lot of people. I did a lot of conversations with people who knew for many years, people who just came to know me through work, neighbors and people I've just met online to really understand what drives them and then what drives me. I did a bit of counseling as one would do. I did did these like things called like disc profile, for example, to know who I am as a person. And then out of that came sort of few opportunities. Then I did some experimentation to figure out how do people react to it. So I'm an engineer. I love A/B testing, right? So I'm A/B testing everything in my life, right? So
Yeah.
how should I wake up? What should I do? All that sort of stuff. So I was doing A/B testing, and even my what excites me. So I okay, for a month I said, okay, this is my mission. How do I feel about that? Then the next month, this is my mission. How do I feel about that? And what's stuck to me throughout, through those different conversations, that's what led me to the next stage. That this is what I really believe in. This is why I can wake up in the morning and say, "This is my mission. This is more powerful than a jug full of coffee. This is what kind of empowers me to do who I am, who I want to become, what legacy I want to leave behind."
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So where did that ambition or it's interesting because I used to think like an engineer. Well, I still do in some ways. Not that I'm an engineer, but some of us kind of have that inclination to focus on the details and the specifics. And sometimes we never get past that. But you seem to have just pushed through that, or maybe it was never an issue for you. What got you through pushing through that and also like the fear to just like let's take action? Because I recognize in myself and in a lot of people that that's the hardest part is taking the action to do something, right? So what compelled you to do that?
No, it's a good question, Greg. I think there's always was a bit of a fire in my belly. Growing up, I didn't have much. It's not, I don't come from a family which got businesses as such or something of that sort. My family did have businesses, but they were not doing anything like you would see in a successful family business. And but there was legacies. My grandfather used to be somebody who reached great heights, and then Family Feud and stuff like that all went away. And it almost felt like I have it in me to kind of fight for it, like to kind of go out and do it. I also don't like the idea of sort of, I'm somebody who will campaign for stuff. I'm not the kind of person who will just sit down and moan. I'm the kind of guy who will do something about it.
Yeah.
That's just who I've been all my life. I've always sort of, I've never listened to, or agreed to what has been told or guided. I always question everything.
Good for you.
This is who I am, and that's my. If you look at my disc profile, is why I'm super scientific, and I'm always about those things. I'm doing, even when we have like a home budget, I've got an Excel sheet for literally everything in my life. It's just who I am. So I think motivation was never an issue. It's just having the right focus and channel kind of follow. For example, that was the bet I already wanted to kind of get, and it's been a lot of different things. One of them is a member of this thing called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. This is
Yep.
across the world. It's in the US and Canada,
Yep.
in the UK, all across the world. And like it's a organization which is curated with entrepreneurs of a certain level, and they focus on business, life, as in personal life and family life. There's like it's a three-legged stool, and like that's given me the power to like think about more than just making money. It's about a holistic thought of life, not only for myself but also the environment I'm in. I think
Mhm.
that's really helped me to become and shape me. In fact, that and this new way of thinking has helped us grow 3x in the last 2.5, 3 years, and
Wow.
in content 75x in growth. So,
Yeah.
it's all because of that kind of mindset. I think that's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. Mindset is where it's at. Um, so did you find any advisors or mentors along the way, or even people that inspired you, that you looked up to? Is there anybody that comes to mind on your way through?
Like on the way, I think I've had a ton and ton of like mentors, advisors. Some of them in my previous work. I had one assigned by EO, a gentleman called Stephen Short, in Ireland. just like ton of people who have been very generous and kind to help through and to help me to achieve where I want to kind of come to. And still, it's just a journey. I haven't reached a destination yet. I'm still on this like long path to the next stage, as it were. Um, but I think mentors are super important. I also feel like what's important is that constant thirst to learn more. Like it's constant. Like the day I feel like I've learned enough, that's the last day of me on this planet. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's that saying, right? When you think you're the smartest guy in the room, you need to find a new room, right? That's true. Unless you have some other objectives that are not very healthy.
Of course.
Right. So what are the startups you did? I looked into a few of them, but I'm curious. I think I'm missing one. So you did the content one, and then what
And
else?
I did a really fun company I formed in sort of the evenings and weekends. So I had some spare time, and I built a what's called a hen party, which is basically a bachelorette party company in the UK. Believe it or not, I didn't know this before because of this company, that in the UK, British people spend £2 billion per year on hen and stags, which is bachelorette and bachelor parties every year.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
So it was a real niche, a real niche, which we had to kind of
Yeah.
dive into, and it was because of a friend who said, "Oh, there's a big opportunity in dawn space bachelorette party," and I'm like, "Well, I don't know nothing about it, but I can help you maybe build your website."
Sure.
So built the website, and he seemed to have lost interest like into that opportunity. But I was like, okay, well, I built the website, I've done the research, I might as well try it out. And began with like one service, like it was a salsa dancing a lesson for 45 minutes and some cocktails and a small tapa, like tapas, like the Spanish food. And that was the beginning of that product in this one city called Brighton in the UK. And I grew that to the biggest dance-based bachelorette party company in the UK.
Wow.
And
Man.
probably Europe. It was about 40 cities. We were doing about, I can't remember, I think it was 70 products. Uh, it just happened, like literally 3.5, 4 years. It just became what it became.
Yeah. So being a niche, I mean, was that part of the reason why it took off because it was so specific?
I would say yes, being in a niche is super important. I think also, I mean, this is what I've realized over the last few years is that to grow any business, the most important part, when people forget this, is that it needs to generate cash. I need to have to sell stuff to kind of get it sold. It doesn't sell on its own. And
Right.
for that, you need to have a strategy. So I think that is something which is super important. Like I think for us, why it grew that well is because from very early on, I was into the digital marketing thing. You know, I kind of understood the SEO part really well. And I've been like hammering that opportunity every time. Even today, if you look at what we are really doing, we are doing content marketing. Our real niche is thought leadership and SEO. We can help our clients, especially in high tech industry, to like really maximize that opportunity through SEO and thought leadership. It's
Mhm.
because that's a great strategy to get new customers. It's so powerful. It's a gift that keeps giving. Once the SEO is up on Google, you'll just keep getting leads all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I've got a pile of questions as always. So the SEO, I mean, I understood it about 10 years ago. I would imagine a lot's changed. But does it still work? I mean, what's the power? Is it that and social media? I mean, social media is huge, obviously. Do they work in conjunction or are they just kind of two separate things? How does all that work?
Well, what I'll say is that I'm more of a B2B person. So I specialize in business to business transaction. That's where I really specialize in. And in that, I would say SEO has a bit of an edge over social media. Nothing social media is not important. It's also important. But there's some, I would say, niche sites like LinkedIn, which will be perhaps more important in B2B. Um, in B2C, I would say social media is more important potentially. Again, SEO is also really important. They go hand in hand. But one is for influence and one is for, I would say, potentially in B2B, especially hard cash, because leads, equal an opportunity which if done properly, generate ton of cash.
Mhm.
Uh, because that's the hardest part in B2B, to get leads come in, then
Sure.
to kind of nurture them across the next few days, weeks, months to convert them into a paying customer. Um, so for me, I think in B2B, it's more SEO, but putting my B2C hat on in the earlier days, social media is super important as well because it really helps you get that influence from people and recommendations and people who want to like, make quick purchases, for example, or just buy into a trend, for example. It's super important for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just dabbling in B2C, but my whole life has been B2B. So let's use that as an example. So let's say I'm a business and I, want to get on the top of Google. Um, we can talk about how we do that, but let's say we're on the top of Google, and everybody knows that that's important. At least if you don't, that would be silly because you can see it from our own patterns. We go on Google and look up everything, right? So if you're on the top of Google, now what's the ideal website that somebody wants to have? I mean, up to date, do you want to have like a one-page funnel type thing, or you want to have a page with all kinds of content, or what's the strategy there, please?
Well, I think the first most important thing is that, like, let's start building a website not for the bots on Google. So let's start building websites and content for our end customer. That's the bit which really matters. And Google recognizes that very early on, and actually all the ranking, all the algorithms are actually based around that fact. So mimic the real life scenario. So let me sort of narrate that what that looks like. So, for example, I go and say, who is the best podcaster on this planet? And someone says, it's Greg Sheldon. He's the best podcaster on this planet.
Yeah.
And so that comes from, all like Adam says that, Raj says that, Tim says that. Suddenly the best podcaster go to yourself, right? And that's mimicked in the form of, like, Google does that by links coming in. So if you highlight a link and say best podcaster and links to your site or to your podcast, then suddenly the enough people do that, then that will just go up in ranking, for example.
Okay.
So mimic that real life scenario. That concept will never change. Um, so then next step is like, okay, what else is important? Well, once Adam and Tim and Raj come to your podcast, to your site, the longer they stay on your site shows that they really, value your content. And that's the other thing which is important for Google, is to people to stay. So this might change in this current form. It might become a little different. But at the end of the day, you're just going to find authority in particular areas, different niches, different keywords, and the concepts are basically from real world and mimic that in the virtual space.
Okay. Wow, very good. Okay, so to keep people there on the website, what's the key thing or things that people have to do to keep people there? I mean, and this is coming from my personal experiences, a lot of business to business, especially traditional industries, they'll post a whole bunch of pictures about, their operation and what, everything about the size of their building and whatnot. And is that a good strategy for a business owner, or do we need to be more engaging with, what's in it for them kind of thing? Is that, what do you do?
So repeat the question again, Greg. So
My question
just
is,
summarize.
we see a lot of, in business to business, we see a lot of websites that are all about the business, and it's all about them. Now, I'm not sure how to ask this. Is there a better way that people can be engaged in the content? Because people, as people are, human experiences, I want to know what's in it for me. Is there a way to engage people more than some people aren't doing on their websites?
Yeah, I think I can answer this in two different ways. So one way of answering is that, say you go to a coffee shop, and there are two books lying there. There's one book which is about the author. There's one book about solving your problems, the coffee drinker. I don't know which one you will pick, but I'll definitely pick up the book which solves my problems, because
Yeah,
we're human beings, we have challenges, we want to fix the challenges all the time.
yeah,
So that's the analogy which I will use. But in the online space as well, the first thing we ask our customers when they look to engage us or to work with us is, who are your customers? What are their needs? Where do they hang out? It's to understand the customer, because that's where the journey begins. It's not about the service, the product. Nobody wants that. They're trying to solve a pain. And so to understand the pain, you need to understand the customer first. And that's where the journey begins. So to answer your question, it is about engagement, because the aim is to solve the pain. And to solve the pain, you need to understand who they are, I guess.
yeah, absolutely. Have to identify the avatar, right? And you see that in startups a lot. Not successful ones, but ones that are a startup, where somebody, and I've been here, I've done this myself, where I have this idea that I think's great, and then I try and take it to the market, and then the market says no, nobody wants that. So how does somebody mitigate all of that work and all of that effort, mental effort, and then you become emotionally attached? Where should somebody start in a mindset to creating something that people actually want?
Well, I'll just do an experience share. I mean, for me
Sure.
personally, it's twofold. One is talk to a lot of people, like potential customers, like do a lot of conversations. And I before starting Goodman Lantern, to work for a company, our real specialty was that before we built a new service or a product, a tech service or a tech product, we would actually sell that into a customer before we started building it. But they funded our business. I mean, we didn't raise money for it, and even we don't raise money. Our customers pay for it because they believe in us. It's about having conversations with customers always, because they know what they need, or at least they believe they know what they need, and with sound judgment and their conversations, you can build something really awesome. Number two is, I think in today's world, especially both B2C and B2B, having a bigger purpose is really important. I think gone are the days where it was just like, this thing works, it works really well. That's not the most important. It is important, but potentially today, when it comes to buying decisions, it's more than that. It's about the environment. It's some sustainability. It is about a mission and what you stand for. So that's why people, buy Tom's shoes, for example,
Yeah.
by Patagonia, because they love the mission behind the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And a consequence of that, a positive one, is sometimes price isn't a factor. They believe in what you're doing, and it's not all about price, which makes it more sustainable. And I'm not saying it's all about profit, it's all about being sustainable as a business, right? So cool, man. So in the startup world, when you do that, and you probably do some more, do you ever raise funds and pitch it, or are you more of, let's make, like you said, sell it? Or have you experienced both?
So the question is, have I raised money in the past?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've raised money. I've raised money. I raised money for my first business, and I thought I did an okay job at that. I raised a round of funding
How was
with
that?
very- it. How was it? It wasn't that difficult, to be honest with you. It
Okay.
wasn't that difficult,
Okay.
and I was lucky. I was lucky. I was very lucky with that. We raised money from um two or three angels. I think it was three angels. They all put some money in. I think again, this comes back to the same thing. It's about telling stories, telling people to buy into a proposition. Because we're human beings, social beings. We'll like stories. We learn. We appreciate stories, and it's what I tell my 2-year-old stories as well. Like she's
Yes.
keen to me to read a storybook before she goes to bed because that's what she processes when she goes to bed. Um, so I think telling stories is super important. I mean, today I'm in a different platform. Today I'm investing money into companies. We are planning something which is still under wraps, so I can't mention much about it. But we're
Yeah.
planning something to kind of help the next generation of founders, and is to to kind of do the full circle and give back now. So I'm on a different, uh, I guess, in different mode where at the moment it's more to invest than to raise money.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome, man. That's good to go from one side of the table to the other. It must be interesting to see from the other side. So what are you looking for, when you're looking at, potential um investee, I guess? What are the things you're looking for?
I think for me, and I guess I didn't have it initially, is uh, well, having a long-term ambition, something like having a bigger appetite or ambition towards their goal. So, we all always look at the short term and look at like, okay, I want to get this milestone, that much money, uh, that many employees, have a company here, office there. And I think the ones which really do a game changer are the ones who are thinking, I want to change the industry, you want to build a new category of things. I think that's where the real opportunity is. And not everybody is like that. Not everybody is built in that way. And it's fine. In that situation, the question which I ask myself is, how can I help show them the vision to make them stand out? If I was investing money into someone's company, what's the real value I can create for them and their company? How can I give them a an advantage, an unfair advantage for them to grow their company? So,
Hmm.
so it's then about looking at who blends in well with our personalities as investors. Where do they want to go? Do they align with our thinking of the future, for example? That's the way I look at it. So it's like a marriage, isn't it? It's like a marriage of, in which hopefully they stay to get together and then build something exciting, and then the offspring goes out and does something awesome.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So do you see these a lot? Like, are you like, sitting in front of a lot of pitches, or are you kind of, how do those come to you?
At the moment, it's to friends. Like, someone pitched them something, and then they got pitched by somebody else. Or they bought a pitch which they thought was interesting to us, and then we just look at it together. Um, other thing is like I'm part of these different networks, and then they come with some ideas and some opportunities. Um, some are early stage seed money. Some of them are uh, sort of part of a investment community where somebody else leads the investment, and you just tag along with them.
Mhm.
So I mean, there's a ton of if you're looking around for investment, you get, I'm sure, like everybody else, get pitched like a ton of like emails you receive in your inbox and your LinkedIn, with like people pitching to you. So I think
Yeah,
there's plenty of them out there.
yeah, for sure. Well, I asked that because I'm part of a clubhouse group called Pitch Freaks, and it's really good and it's interesting. some people come so early and they're just not ready to pitch. And I was just wondering, what is, I mean, that overarching vision is great, but I mean, where do people have to get to? Like, what point do they need to be, to win an investor? Is it, and there's different stages of funding. I get that. But where do they need to be? Do they have to have sales or?
Yeah, it depends. I think it's the kind of investment we're looking to do is also important. So I think with some types of investment, there if there's no money in the bank, they just can't start the business. And in those cases, you look at that as a early stage seed investment. Uh, the others who can run the company with minimal investment, like any tech companies can do that. Um, So for them, there's no excuse. You have to kind of get out there and get customers.
Yeah.
Um, Either way, I think, if a founder is not going out to get opportunities, whether it's a tech company or a shop or a restaurant, or whether it is um, a sort of a mix of the two, at the end of the day, hustling is a big part of entrepreneurship. It's about being able to convince people that there is something exciting here.
Yeah.
And that's important criteria for, in my opinion, for every entrepreneur. We have to have this gene of like being able to convince people. If we don't have it, to practice that more and more so.
Yeah. Great advice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not easy. And that pitch is really hard to put together because it's got to be short and concise, right? So I wanted to switch up here a little bit. Marketing trends. I mean, because you're kind of, in that world. What's coming up? I mean, content marketing is important, right? What's coming for trends in the whole marketing world, online and maybe offline? I mean, I don't know if you do much of that, but online marketing trends.
So I'm the kind of guy who doesn't believe in like these trends, or there's this whole genre of like TikTokers coming in, or there's like, or YouTubers coming in. And for me, I'm big on fundamentals. Like content marketing is not new. Napoleon did press releases. That was the content marketing strategy which he had to get a country to support his war campaigns, and that was happening hundreds of thousands of years back. And before him, there was somebody else doing that stuff, and there'll be people doing it after us for many, many years, because we are social beings. We love stories and we love consume content. It
Yeah.
could be in the form of newspapers, it could be in the form of like writings, radio, television, podcasts, TikTok. Doesn't matter. It's a different medium. The fundamentals remain the same. I think for me, it's all about the fundamentals. It's not about like, oh, this trend, that trend, let's do growth hacking, let's go get that. I did that for a bit. I must say that was a mistake. I believe in having like applying logic to strategies and saying, okay, why does this thing actually work? What's behind it? How does it mirror what was there before, for example? That for me is more important than to go for these trends which fade in. These are all, I'll call them more like fads than trends or
Sure.
long-term strategies.
Fair enough. Great answer. Thank you for that. So telling stories is the key. Is that what you're saying? So I mean, and I'm not very good at it. I'm still learning, how to write and tell a story. I'm actually taking some master classes on that. Were you a natural storyteller, or did you learn to do that, or did you outsource that? I mean, how's that gone for you?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not the world's best writer. I'm not even close to it. I'm actually pretty bad, if I'm being
Okay.
honest with you. But they say scratch and itch is really important in a business, and my itch was that I don't know how to write great copy, and I thought, okay, it'd be really good to have a team to do that, because there are a lot of engineers, and we serve the high tech industry, so you know engineering firms, telecom companies, um, fintech, all these guys, they all have a lot of engineers who struggle to write good content, just like myself.
Mhm.
And but the fundamental part here is to be genuine about how we feel, who we are, because people can sense authenticity in stories. If it's not authentic, they will know it straight away. And pretend to be somebody we are not doesn't help in the long term.
Yeah.
Is my feeling. I think that's the fundamental basis. There are some great principles you can apply, and there's so many good tools out there which can help you do that as well. There's so much good advice there. I mean, um, there's this one tool we actually use which tells you, for example, when you write a story down, how should you write it so that people can read it quickly? They can understand
Oh, really?
how it's written. Um, and that tool can be used to identify, right, stories written down already. How do you present it so that it can be read quickly and it makes sense of it? It's called the Hemingway app.
Oh,
One
okay.
word, hemingwayapp.com. So just like it's a quick example of how can potentially algorithms or AI help you. We use a ton of AI to check our content. So we are content by humans for humans, but then we drive our content through a ton of like tools to check different elements from a point of view of SEO, point of view of tonality, point of view of how can you read that easily, for example. And these are all important things to be done after the content is written. And prepare before the content is created, a strategy how to write good content and good copy.
Yeah. Cool, man. So the tools, so AI is really, and we have a lot of fear around AI, is it going to replace people? Obviously not. Just from what you said, it adds more value to what we're already doing, and it takes away that redundancy, those not redundancies though, but the repetitive tasks, and helps improve things. And I agree. Um, quick, like a question about I come from a traditional industry, the metals manufacturing and all that stuff. I I wonder why the adoption to newer, marketing strategies and technologies and all this stuff. Why is there such a resistance to it? And what's been your experience in life? Is that every industry? Is that just because I'm biased and that's all I see? Or is that always the case? Like people are resistant to change. What have you seen when it comes to that?
um I think some industries are more open to change, especially the ones which are newly built. I guess like obviously look at the whole tech market. By default it's a newly, like, especially the digital marketing industry, it's relatively new compared to
Yeah,
metal and other industries. And so they are, for them to be born into digital marketing, it's easier. I think I think I mean, we work with a few manufacturers, right
good.
from the US market right through all across to like Europe, uh is one in Africa as well? No, not in Africa. So you got Europe, US, Europe, Australia, and Asia. Your clients in manufacturing in all these countries,
Good.
all these continents, I mean. And I think the ones who are using the technology to, at least for marketing purposes, are certainly growing much faster. In fact, one of our customers in Norway went public, and we were part of that content creation journey for them.
Awesome.
Um, to be able to showcase, for example, their case studies, like help them get a better evaluation when they went public, for example. So I
Yep.
think it's super important to use technology. I know it's difficult to adopt that initially because, well, it's a change from what we used to, but taking risks um, is important part of trying to grow further. Because if you just stay steady Eddie, we just won't make it to the next level. We have to make some changes in our lives, and you know it's hard, but that's part of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say to anybody listening, not the competition's pretty low, when there's, when it comes to manufacturing and metals and industrials, there's not a lot of companies doing that. So this is the time to do it. So Raj, where can people find you if they want to, reach your content marketing or any of your wisdom? Where can they find you?
Well, certainly on LinkedIn. If you look for Raj Goodman, you'll find me. I'm the first link, and probably the only guy with the name Raj Goodman Anand. So if you search, you should hopefully you'll find me. You can Google search me as well. Probably end up on our website goodmanlantern.com. We do a lot of blog creation there about content marketing and the benefits of content marketing. So please do come and check it out. And I also do a lot of content writing on our LinkedIn as well. So yeah, please look me up, add me as your contact, and yeah, keep in touch.
Okay, wonderful, Raj. Well, I thank you so much. Any parting advice for, life in general or business owners before we go?
I think the one message for me is like to actually grow in life and business is to think holistically. It's not about just the one like sort of one ambition to just make money. And I think the aim should be to live a happier, richer life. That's when we will fulfill all our dreams. So I invite all of us to kind of look at that opportunity, live a happier, holistic life.
Beautifully said. All right, Raj. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon. I'll send you an email. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All
Cheers.
right.
Thank you. Bye
Bye-bye.
for now.